Hello. Hello. So, I'm chilled out on the couch right now, and I'm realizing that I've just been slacking from the time I made my first recent video, speaking video. Um, I thought I would have made more, especially with regard to what I want to speak about. And what I want to talk about specifically right now, I'm kind of wondering if I can tie the two things together, because one of the things I want to talk about is um, two experiences that I have had where I've been dead in this life. And the other thing I wanted to talk about had a little bit to do with Jesus, who also was dead but lived again. So, um, I mean, on one hand, I guess he's got me beat because he went to heaven, but I kind of got him beat because I died twice. But we'll get to that. Um, so let's start here. When I was born, my mother told me that uh, I got caught in the birth canal, and my pulse was gone. They apparently had to shock me back to life. So she told me on my cranium, on the top of my head. That was my entrance into this experience. She said that the last thing she heard before they put her under, after being in labor for like, I forget the exact number. I wish she was still alive so I could ask her. It's like 40 something hours or 30 something. Like, it was a lot. It was a long time. And she heard, we lost him. We're going to lose her. And they, gave her gas or whatever they did. And she went out. And she said when she came to, the first thing she asked was, "Is he okay? Is my son okay?" And anyway, uh, that was my entrance into this life. I don't remember that, but I'm told that it did occur. Um, I've had one of the main things I want to talk about on my channel here is a lot of the strange kind of paranormal experiences that I've had. I've had more than anybody I've ever spoken to. Um, Occasionally I'll meet somebody who's seen or heard or experienced something. Maybe a few things, but um, rarely do I get anybody that can sit and discuss that kind of thing with me for a long period of time. And I've wondered. I talked to this Irish girl once, girl from Ireland, not just Irish heritage, but she told me that she had a lot of experiences, and she also had a kind of an interesting birth where I think the umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck, and she was born blue or something, and they had to resuscitate her. Um, but she said that she had heard that people who go through traumatic experiences, particularly at birth, and often even during the course of a life, will have experiences like that. And if you believe in that kind of thing, some people are open to it, some people aren't. And I think a jarring experience like being born dead and having to get shocked back to life on the top of your head might open you up to some things if there's something to be, opened up to. So there's that. Um, and in my case, there was another experience. I had quite a few experiences when I was 14 that were strange. Um, but what we're discussing in this video is my being dead experiences. So when I was 14, I was told that my pulse was gone for 20 minutes. And during that 20-minute experience, I had an experience that seemed to me to last maybe 2 or 3 minutes. First, I remember when I first went out, um, I thought it seemed like I was standing in darkness, complete darkness, like you're out in space, silent, calm. There was nothing stressful about it. It was a very calm experience. And initially, in the distance, it looked like I'd see like a light going by, then a light going the other way. And I remember at the time thinking that I was standing at night in a field and I could see a freeway with a car every now and then driving by. And after a few moments, I noticed that these lights that was just slowly going in one direction then the other they were different levels and they were different colors. And till it looked like just tracers or even like lasers worth of lights. I was in darkness, but almost looked like I was being surrounded all of a sudden by lights. Not like a rainbow or anything, almost like I said, lasers, like very thin but colorful. After that, you've probably heard that when you die, you see your life pass before your eyes. That didn't happen to me. I heard. Everything for me was auditory. I heard every voice that had ever spoken to me. I heard all of them, and I heard everything, like in an instant almost, everything that had ever been said to me. And, if I told you I have a recording of everyone who's ever spoken to you and everything they've ever said, and here we go, I'm going to hit play. Even if that's impossible, but even if it was possible and I hit play on a recording of everything you've ever heard from anyone, it would sound like a crowd of people making noise to, good luck picking anything out. But in this state, when I was supposedly dead, I heard every voice that I had ever heard in my life. Clearly, I could pick each one out. It was, thinking about it now, it's almost like, trying to think about the vastness of the universe or contemplate eternity or something. It's fairly impossible, yet I know I experienced that. So, and then I came to. There are elements to that story that I kind of want to keep private for now, like how I ended up dead for 20 minutes and what happened immediately after I came to. But I'm going to skip about 9-10 years, a decade or so into the future, and I'm 23, 24, and I had picked up a copy of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, translated by a guy named W.Y. Evans Wentz, because I hadn't read a lot of Buddhist stuff, and I was in this phase of my life where I was reading anything I could get my hands on about spirituality and religion, etc. And so I pick up this copy of the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I took it home. I start reading it, and to this day, I still haven't read the whole thing. At the beginning, it's basically taking you through the process of it's purportedly taking you through the process of what happens after you die and what you're going to experience. And I remember there was something called Bardos, Bardo, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, and which are, to me when I was reading, seemed like gateways or doorways that you go through, different stages maybe or phases. And so I start reading these things, and the imagery is frighteningly close to what I experienced when I was told I was dead for 20 minutes. And I'm reading a book telling you what happens when you die. And as much as I was interested at the time in like finding truth and figuring things out, something made me shut the book. I just shut it. It was, I guess it freaked me out. Um, and shortly thereafter, a friend of mine, John, who was living in Sacramento at the time, I was in Texas, and he came to visit. And I remember he was sitting in my living room, and for whatever reason, he looked at the bookshelf, and he was like, "Oh, the Tibetan Book of the Dead." And he said, "I've been meaning to get a copy of that." And I said, "Do you want it?" And I gave it to him. And I've since I purchased it again. I saw it in another bookstore and rebought the book, but I still haven't finished it. Um, you would think I would be a staunch Buddhist or something, but I'm not. I don't. I don't call myself Christian or Buddhist or Muslim or New Age or pagan or any of that stuff. Yet there are elements of almost everything that I've ever read that has any kind of spiritual or religious leaning that I resonate with or gravitate towards. There's also elements that I find despicable about a lot of them. So that brings me to Jesus. Maybe this isn't really the right place. I don't know. Something was telling me to make a video about my near-death stuff in this. So let's talk about Jesus. How can I tie that together? So Jesus had is purported to have died, or was apparently dead for more than 20 minutes. He beat me there. 3 days. Now, there are different schools of thought. The school of thought that looks at that as literal, and that's a literal story that happened to a literal guy. And there are other schools of thought that look at that as allegorical. It's metaphor. The whole story is a metaphor, which makes a certain kind of sense, especially if you look at Jesus as the focal point of Christianity and of the New Testament and all that. And the vast majority of what he is said to have said was parables, which are metaphors. It's so it wouldn't be too far-fetched to suspect or suppose that perhaps the Bible is one big metaphor, which perhaps instead of looking at verses like I don't even remember what it was in Timothy, First Timothy or Second Timothy, I think, which tells women to shut up in church, if you look at that as an allegory, maybe it's not really telling women to shut up in church. Maybe it's telling, maybe it's saying something else. For instance, it says that the man is supposed to rule over the woman, right? The woman is supposed to be in subjection to the man. Maybe, right? What it's talking about is that your spirit or your mind should be should rule over your soul or your emotional side. Keep it in check. Maybe, and it's just one idea. It's one possibility. I'm not saying that's what's going on, or what and maybe it doesn't matter anyway, right? What you believe about any of those stories, because I don't believe you need to find a book or a church or a pastor or the right teaching in order to find truth or your way through life. One of the things that, did I touch on this before? I don't know. But one of the things that I found studying religion and spirituality is that the word religion means to bind together, religare in Latin, which is similar to the word yoga, which means to yoke or unite, which is similar to the idea of love, which is the desire to connect, to be one with, right? And so, in the Bible, it says God is love. People place so much. You go to church, you got to have faith. You ask a question. Well, I understand. I can't answer that, but don't lose faith. Don't doubt, right? They place so much, I understand. I think faith is a good thing, but even in the Bible, there's a verse that says, it mentions faith, hope, and love, but then it says the greatest of these is love. So even the Bible places love above the idea of faith, and faith is what they say saves you from hell forever. So if faith will save you from hell forever, if that's even true, what will love do if it's greater than faith, if it's even better than faith, right? And where can you find love? Do you need the Bible or the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita or the Tao Te Ching and do you need any of that to find love? Most people, if they're lucky, find it at a very early age with their parents. And, the bottom line is that, I remember at an early age when I was studying religions in my teens and whatnot, thinking, coming from a Christian background, asking myself, well, did the Native Americans who never knew anything about Jesus, are they all in hell now because they didn't get it? Or any other Aboriginal tribes in the world, or, everybody in the Middle East? Well, not all the Middle East, but, if you're born in a place where, the Quran is primarily taught, or if you're born in China where it was, you know what I mean, elsewhere. I think that for it to be fair, if we're here to find some kind of truth, if we're on a treasure hunt, a scavenger hunt for the right answer, I think it has to be something anybody can find, no matter where geographically they show up on this planet, in this world, wherever we are. And anybody can find love, even if it's for your favorite food or a sunset. It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm in love. Love is something that you have, and you can cultivate that inside of you. You know what I mean? And I mean, what did Jesus say? Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. But then he said, what? The kingdom of heaven, whatever that is within you, he said. And he also said, unless you become like a little child, you're not going to enter into it. And the main thing, because this is getting long, I'm at 17 minutes. The main thing that I wanted to point out, because I wanted to discuss a little bit of religion and, my take on it on this channel. And one of the things that was in my head that for some reason I wanted to put in here is the fact that, Jesus changed a lot of what God, the character, Jehovah, right, from the Old Testament. He changed a lot of his rules. And, it was one of the reasons that the people of that day looked at him as blasphemous, the Sadducees and the Pharisees. They said, this guy's blaspheming. And why? Well, because he was, right? God of the Old Testament said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Meaning somebody hits you, you hit them back. And what did Jesus say? No, turn the other cheek. They hit you on the left, give them the right. They hit you on the right, give them the left. That was a contradiction. He did contradict Father God in the Old Testament, right? In the Old Testament, there's it's said that, adulterers and, prostitutes, people of that, those who commit it are to be stoned to death in the streets. There's a verse, I believe it was in Leviticus, that says it had something to do with adultery, or if your daughter becomes a prostitute or something of that nature. I might have it wrong, but she's to be killed by fire. I mean, where do you think the people who conducted the witch burnings got their ideas from? From the Bible, largely. And so Jesus, famously, Mary Magdalene was about to be, in the story, stoned in the street. because she was a prostitute. And Jesus said, you know, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. I think most people, especially Christians, have the wrong idea. There's a lot they don't get because they have this idea that the character that was God in the Old Testament is the father of this guy Jesus, who is changing all that guy's rules, right? It went so far to change the rules as to say this guy from the Old Testament who was demanding blood sacrifice, right? To pacify him and make him, grant you forgiveness and everything else, you had to bring him a blood sacrifice. You had to kill an animal for him, and possibly other things. Whereas Jesus said, "No, I'm the final one. I'm the Lamb of God." It's another kind of like slap in the face of that dude's rules. I'm going to go a little further into this as I discuss my views on Christianity and the Bible and paranormal activity and things of that nature. But I wanted to, I guess, I don't know if I've tied my story together with that or not. Other than maybe the fact that I too, though not crucified, being dead as Jesus was and coming back as Jesus did. And I'm not trying to say that I'm some kind of messiah or guru, but I also want the truth, not only in my own life for my sake and for my son's sake, to be known. But I also want to sever, that which is just and that which is unjust in the Bible, and discern between the two, point them out, because I don't think I'm not a big fan of the idea that if whatever energy created us, you want to call it God, you want to call it a he, you want to call it a she, you want to call it an it, I don't think if God exists, I don't think it's any more of a long bearded wizard like male of the human species than an elephant or an ant. I think it's much deeper than that, and we like our stories. We're so into our stories and believing in our stories that if no one had ever told you that Santa Claus wasn't real, you'd probably still believe that he is. If no one ever told you the Easter Bunny wasn't real and your parents just had somebody, somehow the world kept screwing, you know what I mean? Like that's how easy it is for us to fall in line and believe whatever, just think about it. And a lot of people, because they never were told, I've talked to people about my questions with the Bible, and the people who have kind of read and they've gone, well, I know it's a little weird, but just don't read that stuff and just believe, just have faith, and that might be fine for some people, but I'm interested in knowing things and the truth. I've had enough strange experiences, as you'll find if I'm granted the time on earth to continue elaborating on this channel. You'll find that I've had a lot of strange experiences, and I'm interested in trying to figure out what it all means, what those experiences all mean, what the hell this is about, what the hell I'm about. Like I said, I've had more strange experiences than anybody I've ever spoken to, but I'm also probably as far into the dark as anybody. I don't profess to know answers. I look at people sometimes who come from any angle with this nose in the air, high and mighty. I know what's going to happen because I saw it in a vision or whatever, And it's really hard for me to take a lot of it seriously. Yet, I'm on my own path. I'm searching, and this is my story of where I've been, uh, where I am, and we'll see where I'm going. Where I'm going is I'm telling my story right now, and we'll see where it goes. Um, so yeah, hopefully my next video has something to do with uh, the otherworldly, paranormal, weird stuff that has happened to me that has let me know beyond the shadow of a doubt that this world is not as solid as it seems. Um, and if you're interested in hearing about that, I have some stuff to say. And it's stuff that's happened to me alone and stuff that's happened to me with other people, which leads me to believe I'm not completely crazy. Uh, and so if you're listening, thank you. And if you want to keep listening, stay tuned. And if you don't, you want to argue with anything I said here, again, like I said in a previous video, I'm going to try my best not to engage and I'm just not interested in arguing. I'm trying to tell my story, you know. So, is there anything else I want to say? I don't know. I did say that I would try to end every video with a song. And you know what song? You know what? I'm gonna do a because I recently posted it on my Facebook page because it's almost Halloween. And ever since I recorded it in the back seat of my car, I post this song around Halloween, and it's a song by Danzig called "Long Way Back from Hell." You can look up the original if you want, and if you go down on my channel to a couple of years back, I guess you could look up "Long Way Back from Hell" by Jonathan Compter, and you see me sitting in the back seat of my car, and I played that song on an acoustic guitar. Not very much like they recorded it at all. It's a little different, but the words are the same. And to me, that song, it's the first song I ever heard by Danzig. I was 12 years old, and it had an effect on me at that age, and it stuck with me, which is probably why I recorded it recently, a few years ago. And yeah, that's my song. That's my song at the end of this video. Uh, and for again, for me, it's kind of about my interpretation of it is, pulling oneself out from darkness, from the shadow, you know. Uh, in a weird way, I know some people interpret that song as evil because some people interpret Glenn Danzig as evil. But remember, that man wrote songs for Johnny Cash, and he's a bit of a living legend in a way. And that's all I have to say. Long Way Back from Hell by me, Jonathan Compter, or by him, whoever. And I'll tell you some ghost stories soon, or something like that. Take care.